sound of the North East is BBC Radio Newcastle.
Thank you very much for your company. Back in 2009, a lad from South Shields won the X Factor, and perhaps one of Joe McElderry's most memorable moments on the show was singing alongside this fella. Take a listen.
When I'm losing everything, it's like the sun going down on me. I can't actually believe I'm going to introduce this man to the stage. The one and only George Michael.
I remember watching that on the telly. Love George Michael. Well, Joe is about to start his tour. It's a Freedom, a tribute to the songs of George Michael, which he's bringing to the City Hall in Newcastle next month. So we popped into the studio to tell me all about it.
Do you know what? It's very exciting. I'm a little bit nervous. Obviously, it's a huge legacy of music and an incredible artist that we all love. But I'm really excited. I've been rehearsing the last few weeks, and obviously you just forget how brilliant the songs are, how some of the, massive up-tempo pop sing-along numbers and then heartbreakingly beautiful ballads. So we've got a real mix of both, and I think the audience are going to love it.
Of course they are.
Yeah,
of course
I'm excited.
I think with George Michael as well, you've got two camps. You've got the getting ready for a night out music, and then if you put on something like Listen Without Prejudice, then you can just chill, can't you? And it's a mix of both.
Like Jesus to a Child, Beautiful. You Have Been Loved, like beautiful, heartbreaking songs actually, but to do them live in a concert setting, it's going to be really special. And it's been great kind of going through all of the back catalogue of stuff. And I kind of knew it anyways, because obviously, although when a lot of his music was released, I was quite young. My mum is the biggest George Michael fan, like obsessed. So I grew up with all of that music anyways, and obviously got to sing with him on the show, which was an amazing moment.
And when you look back at those videos, you're just a man, and you can see in your eyes, it's like, is this really happening?
Yeah.
No, when you watch back videos like that, what do you think?
Well, do you know what? The last, during lockdown and stuff and the pandemic was the first time I'd kind of reflected on all of that stuff, because you spend, you know what it's like in the industry of kind of entertainment and broadcasting and things, you always kind of just leave the show behind and on to the next thing, and you're on that treadmill all the time. And I had been for a good 9-10 years of just constantly finishing something, literally having 3 days off, going straight on the next thing, packing a suitcase. So when lockdown hit, I kind of had all of that time to sit, and I spent a couple of nights out with a bottle of red wine, kind of flicking through YouTube, which I've never done before, and watching it all and being like, oh my God, I forgot that happened. I forgot this happened. And I actually realised how young I was. That whole experience of him coming on the show was such a quick turnaround, because he hadn't agreed to come on the show until midnight on the Thursday evening before the Saturday show. And everybody else had their duet partners except me. They were like, we're still working on yours. Obviously unbeknown to me, because it was George Michael, and X Factor was at its peak at that point. So I think there was that thing of do I come on a show like that? Do I not? Because he was quite a private artist in that sense. And when they rang us at midnight on the Thursday evening, and they were like, George Michael's agreed to come on the show and sing with you. And I just remember thinking, he's not going to come on this show. He's not going to, because he's an icon. And not to say that anybody else that was on the show wasn't, but I just think there's certain artists, isn't there, that you almost don't think they're real. And for me, he was one of those. So when he turned up to the rehearsal, I was like, oh my God, it's actually happening. We're doing this.
When you got that call then, even though it was midnight, did you ring your mum?
I rang her and she said, you know what, the first thing, there is no way he would be coming on the show to sing with you. And I was like, well, he is. And even when I stood there, that introduction bit, the famous X Factor introduction where you go, please welcome to the stage, I had this horrible feeling that the doors were just going to open and he wouldn't be there. But he was. It was an incredible moment. So
once you get over that you're going to be performing with them, and that's when the work starts, but the work starts really quickly, because you've got to be up to the top of your game by the Saturday night for a live show. What was he like as an artist behind the scenes in terms of the rehearsal process?
Well, we rehearsed on the Saturday, and it was about 5:30 on the afternoon.
Oh,
it was X Factor is such a quick turnaround with a lot of the stuff. And he got stuck in traffic. He was stuck in traffic on the M25 to get into the studio at Wembley. So they said, he's running late. So we're going to do your sound check first, and then when he gets there, we'll do a camera rehearsal. So it's now like knocking on to like literally an hour before the show, 6 p.m. And I'm stood there and you could feel the atmosphere in the room because he was a massive star. And you could feel that thing of like people waiting and being like, oh my God, this is like a big moment for the show. And I'm just thinking, God, keep it together, Joe. Like, come on. And somebody came out on the stage, tapped us on the shoulder, this young woman, and she said, can you just come with me, please, Joe? And she took us backstage and he was just stood in the wings behind the television set. And he just went, I didn't feel it was appropriate to kind of meet you in front of everyone. So I just want to say, my name's George. It's an absolute privilege to sing with you today. And let's make this moment all about you. And we walked out on the stage together and he honestly did do that. He was just so given and humble, and he gave me all of the high parts of the song, and we hadn't rehearsed any of them high harmonies that he does. And he stopped the song and he's like, you need to do them, this is about you, and we want to put you in a great light, like for people to vote for you. So just really humble and lovely, and then invited me and Cheryl back into his dressing room for a cup of tea. Little 18-year-old me sitting with Cheryl and George Michael, we're all in dressing gowns drinking a cup of tea, and I was just thinking, this is definitely a one for the book, I think.
Sounds almost like a cheese dream, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was. But he was so lovely and just made the whole experience really normal. And I think you could tell I was a little bit overwhelmed as well. One of the nicest people I've ever met in this industry. Really, really nice.
You know, the clips that you watched in lockdown, of course, we've seen many times. In fact, there's one in particular which has got 7 million views on YouTube of you singing. And I just wonder what advice you would give to that young lad.
I think not to stress so much. I stressed about the industry so much in the first 3 years, and there were so many amazing things happening, which still happen now, but I just enjoy them so much more now, and I put so much pressure on me. I think that comes from X Factor as well, and the way it's positioned in the media and stuff. There's that pressure to do incredibly well and not fail, and like, you can't go through life and never fail. And I think I would probably say to myself back then, just enjoy the little moments, and every now and again take a deep breath, take it in. And I've always done that now over the years, and as I got a little bit older, I try and do like the snapshot Polaroid picture moment. When you're having one of those moments in life where you're like, I'm having a really great time, I try and just stop for a couple of seconds, especially on stage, and breathe it in, take it in. But I wish I had done that in the first 3 years, because I was stressing about things that I didn't need to stress about. As you get older, I suppose it is just an age thing as well. Certain things don't matter anymore, do they? And like, I used to care about what everybody thought all the time, and now I'm just like, you can't please everyone. And as long as you do things with a good heart and are caring towards people, and what the main goal is in life, then who cares?
He's lush, isn't he? More from my guest Joe McElderry coming up in the next few minutes. And if you've seen any of his videos on TikTok, if you've seen him on Instagram, on social media, have a quick scroll if you've got time, because they are a hoot. You'll be finding out, if you've seen his TikTok videos, who he's performing with, because there was a lot of speculation. One of the ladies that he is performing with, is it Joe Brand? Is it Kathy Burke? Who is it? A little bit of Mamma Mia in a beautiful seaside resort. If you've seen it, you know exactly what I'm referring to. If you haven't, you've got a bit of time to try and find it, and then we'll wait to find out together.
On BBC iPlayer, Goliath is dead.
BBC Radio Newcastle. It is the sound of the North East. My guest on the show at the moment is singer Joe McElderry. Now, he's about to set off on his tour, Freedom, a tribute to the songs of George Michael. So he popped into the studios to tell me about that. And what he'd tell his 18-year-old self, if he won the X Factor right now, what would he say to him?
We see it all the time, in this industry, and especially with social media now. And I feel so sorry for young people just starting out in the industry, because it can be quite suffocating at times. Whereas when I did the show, apart from the newspapers, you didn't really know what anybody thought of you, and that was a great thing.
Having said that, I must admit, I said to my girls last night, all young women, the older girls, I said, I'm talking to Joe McElderry tomorrow. Do you know what they started to do?
What?
They started to go, am I ready? Sorry, ladies and gents, because we're on the radio. But if you get the chance to follow Joe on Instagram or TikTok, he's been on his jollies recently. There's a picture of you in turquoise shorts and t-shirts,
yes,
having a bit of a dance to Lizzo.
Yes.
So, you talk about social media, but it's funny what people pick up on, isn't it?
It's great, and I think, you think about some things to put on social media, and people send, this is the marketing plan and the promotional plan for this tour and things. And 9 times out of 10, the most thought out posts, nobody cares cares about. And then you do a little dancing clip and everybody loves it and
Everyone's
goes, it
there.
made us feel really happy and smile.
So there's that one, and you're dressed in a caftan singing to Mamma Mia. That's
With me
another
auntie,
one.
yes.
It's your auntie. Now, I'll let you into a secret. Anthony Dave's reading the news. He was fixated on that post and trying to work out who the lady was.
Yeah, so it was me auntie, but I mean, we had all sorts of comments. I think she had Kathy Burke, Joe Brandt, Deborah Meaden.
Yeah.
So we had a great time reading the comments of who, and I had, what did I have? I had Alan Carr.
Are they your auntie's caftans?
Yes.
Well, she rocks them beautifully.
She said, I've had an idea for TikTok.
Yeah.
Let's do the Mamma Mia one. I've got the outfits. I've got the caftans.
And you rock them perfectly. You know, your vocal range is extraordinary. And we've seen that, you know, as you say, from being a young lad, pop, classical, musical theatre, but trained in opera as well. And that was another bit of a curveball. I think it was a different side to you and a different physicality in the way that you sing opera.
Yeah.
That must have been tough. That's not singing Mamma Mia on the beach, is it?
No,
This is
well-
something completely different.
Well, when they asked us to do the show, I genuinely did think it was just going to be a bit of a laugh. I'd watched the show and I thought, there's no way they're really teaching people to do it and it'll just be like a bit of fun. You'll go on there and you'll do the show and everyone will go, oh, that was a nice thing. Didn't think anything career-wise would come from it, which, you know, was quite a nice feeling to just go into something thinking, I'm going to film this and have a great time. And we got there on the first day and they were like, right, forget everything you've ever learned. We're literally going to teach you how to sing again. And they did. You know, they stripped us down, brand new breathing techniques, the way you position your throat and your neck and your jaw and all of these amazing techniques that you couldn't pay for that kind of training. Like, they were the top vocal coaches from like the Royal Opera House and everything like this. And I started doing gigs in the middle of the show, like things that were already pre-booked before I'd started filming, and people were like, please sing Nessun Dorma, and I was like, I haven't got a backing track. And then I obviously got the opportunity to sign to Decca, and we did a few albums of that material, and it is incredible. It's an incredible genre of music, and it does just make people feel something. But the technique that I got on there, I use in still on shows now. It protects my voice. It's like allows us to have an insane amount of stamina that I didn't have before I did that show.
Will you be using any of those techniques playing the Fairy Godfather this year in Panto?
Yeah, well, when you've got to do 12 shows a week, you've got to, because you know that's a huge thing that I think people underestimate. Is it's one thing doing like one night, but sustaining your voice and keeping well enough to keep up like a 3-month schedule of shows every day is always, well, sometimes longer than that. But I'm really excited. I've got lots of fun, exciting moments in that. It's going to be brilliant.
It will be. Once that rehearsal process starts and you're in Panto land for a big chunk of time. But
Yeah.
before that, of course, you're on stage as a tribute to George Michael. It's going to be a smashing show. And is there anything left on that musical list then?
I'd love to do like a live album, and I've always wanted to do that. And there's been a few times where we've been on a tour and we've done it, and just certain things haven't kind of fell into place for what to do it, because I really enjoy listening to live albums. So that's definitely one. I'd love to do some more of my own material. I've been writing and recording all through lockdown and stuff, so I've actually got well over an album's worth of material to do that. I just need to get in the studio and get it all finished. I've kind of loved everything I've done so far, and coming out of lockdown, we never imagined the last 3 years would happen, you know, and I think just if a project comes along and it's something fun and enjoyable and I think I can learn something from it, I've just kind of learned to go, do you know what? Yeah, I'll give that a go. Why not?
And incorporating your auntie and maybe Grandma Hilda. Because
Grandma
your nan
Hilda,
as well. I mean,
yes.
she's an absolute star in her background. She was treading the boards when you weren't even a twinkle.
Yeah, and she was in the band. They used to go all over the Northeast and do comedy, song and mime, raising money for cancer research, because she sadly lost her brother quite young. She does steal the limelight, and she's a bit of a hit on social media, but she's got no idea what social media is. What was the one she said the other day? I was filming a video to put on Instagram for her birthday, and she said, I better not be going on YouTube. I said, well, it's not going on YouTube, Grandma, but that's not where you're going anyways. It's Instagram.
Grandmas are great, aren't they? I love it. Brilliant. Well, it's great to speak to you. And when we have our guests on the show, we always ask them the quick six. So you're
All
up
right,
for the quick
okay,
six?
yes.
Right, first thing that comes into your head, all right? We're at karaoke. What are you singing?
Man, I Feel Like a Woman. Shania Twain.
Have you ever had a nickname?
Yes, Hovis.
Because?
Because I never used to be able to say my name when I was a kid, Joseph, and it used to always come out as Hovis. So my mum and granda and everyone used to call us Hovis.
Do they still call you Hovis?
My mum does sometimes.
Away, Hovis, come in for your tea. And imagine the mean streets of Shields.
Yes.
How would your friends describe you?
Crazy, fun, and caring, I think.
What's your favourite childhood memory?
Going to Customs House Panto with all my family. We used to go every year, and I remember it being the most exciting, magical time ever.
I agree. You're there, and it's a buzz, isn't it? And now when you go as grown-ups, you can see it's people who've been potentially going since they were little bands themselves.
100%. And obviously, I now see it from the stage, which is an amazing thing. You just see the reaction on kids' and families' faces.
Absolutely. What movie have you seen loads of times, but whenever you see it on the planner, you have to watch it?
Mamma Mia.
I can tell, watching that video. It's got all the moves. What's your auntie's name?
Christine.
Auntie Christine.
Yes.
What an absolute star. And finally, if you were tiny weenie for a day, what would you do?
I just love that kids could just nap in a pram anytime they want. That's what I'd do.
Class that, isn't it?
I see kids like in public places just flat out asleep in a pram, and I think, oh, I wish I could still do that.
Me too. The other thing is when you fall asleep as a grown-up and you wake up in bed.
Yes.
That never happens as a grown-up, but when you're little, you get carried to bed.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I was the kid that used to fall asleep in the middle of restaurants and everything, so that used to happen to me on a regular basis.
Well, it's great to speak to you, Joe. The show sounds cracking. How can we find out more about you? Tell us about your socials and how we can get tickets for the gig.
So we come to the City Hall, Newcastle, on the 16th of October. And if you go to joemckelderryofficial.com, all the tickets, all social media and everything's there.
There's my pal Hovis from South Shields. What a smashing chap. Fantastic performer. That show's going to be tremendous. And lots of love to Auntie Christine as well. If you check out Joe's social media, she's an absolute star. It's nearly 2:45.